All right. Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hi, I'm so well. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. Um, let's just jump right in because I'll do a little introduction before this, but I'd love for you to explain a little bit about who you are.
Oh my God, that's a loaded question. Okay. Totally. Like personally, professionally. So I'm Erin.
Yeah.
I I run a company. I would say that's like really my big thing is I am the founder and the CEO of the Functional Nutritionist. We are an online functional medicine clinic and education platform, and I also train and educate and mentor practitioners through an academy. So we work with all sorts of health practitioners, RDs, RNs, acupuncturists, chiropractors, and we train them in functional medicine modalities. I'm a mom. I've got an almost 10-year-old daughter. And I mean, there's other things I could say, but let's just start there.
Yeah. Well, you just moved too recently, right?
No, we purchased a lake house, which was like bucket list goals.
Oh,
I live in New Hampshire for some context, and then we purchased a lake house in Maine. I say lake house because it's on a lake, and that was my dream. I want a summer lake house. And
mm,
my husband and daughter, they ski, and so he was like, I want a winter house. And so he's like a master manifester. He would never ever describe himself as that, but he is. He's like pro. And he found a lake house and a ski house, and we've just got it all. So that's a second home that we purchased.
wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. I know
And
it's so exciting.
we're going to have him on the podcast too, just really pick his brain.
He would die.
So, yeah, we'll jump right in. What I'm most fascinated about you, what's coming top of mind is that so you have this functional nutrition, this beautiful business. There's really an intuitive lens to it. But what I want to talk about first is this course that you just launched called Manifest Your Wealth. And I just want to talk a little bit about, I think just that, like your thought process around that, because this was in the course that you offered. It was like a week.
Yeah, so I feel like to talk about manifest your wealth, we have to like back up a few clicks.
Yeah.
I personally I love an origin story, so I kind of want to
Yes.
talk about how it conceptualized. So manifest your
Beautiful.
wealth. For those of you who are not familiar, you're not keyed into everything I'm doing. It's a money mindset course, but it's a lot. It's a lot more than that. I mean, as things are, when we're talking about identity, when we're talking about the beliefs we have and the narratives that we tell ourselves, and all of that, it always goes way, way deeper than the external. But the external is how I hook the people. So we're going to talk about money, and then we're really going to talk about like how do you believe or what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about your place in the world? Like so on and so forth. But my my original manifestation program is actually called Manifest Your Health. And one of my students in the Functional Nutrition Academy, she was like, if you're doing a money mindset course, you got to call it Manifest Your Wealth. And I was like, that's brilliant. How did I not see that? So I want to talk about Manifest Your Health because I think that will set the stage of like why I ended up talking about money in the first place. So cut to, I would say maybe like 5 years ago, actually cut to even longer than that. About 10 years ago, I got super duper duper sick. And it's kind
Mm,
of the classic allegory. We've all either heard it before or lived it before. I kept going to my doctors. I can't get better. What's going on? And they're like, you're normal. You're a new mom. Like, let the baby cry it out. Like we're totally okay with moms feeling subpar. So they're like, yeah,
yeah.
nothing to see here. Long story less long, I would end up being diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And so a lot of people fight for a lot of years to get that diagnosis. Like, what's wrong with me? What are
Mm,
these symptoms? Like, what the heck is going on? And they feel this like sense of vindication and validation when they finally receive a diagnosis. And little do they know is like, that's really the beginning of the journey because conventional medicine doesn't really have a whole lot of answers for you in the world of autoimmunity. So I was kind of left to my own devices to be like, I'm not okay with this, like, this sentence that I've been given. I really want to figure out what the heck is going on and what caused this. And so that's actually when I found functional medicine. And really did a deep dive into the underbelly of what was going on within my body. Functional medicine prides itself on a systems biology approach. Where's the breakdown? How did it happen? What's the origin story of that? And how do we fix that rather than trying to deal with the symptoms? And I loved it. And it's how I started to build and grow my practice. I got a lot better. But what I didn't, so I healed my physical body, but I wasn't able to heal the fear of getting sick again. And
Mm.
so that really was a thing that I carried around like a backpack all the time. Like I feel good now, but I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But what if I get sick? But what if I get sick again? And obviously there was a lot of trauma that needed to be healed with just the medical gaslighting that I experienced, but also the fear of getting sick. And I was going through a flare up of symptoms, and it was like, this is about 5 years ago. It was like a really big, scary thing. And I was sitting in my physical therapy's office, and in walks this woman. She was about 60 years old with bright blue hair. So you couldn't really miss her. And I'm like, hey, I know her. She was the cranial sacral therapist that I had worked with when I was pregnant. And I hadn't seen her in years. And I was like, what the heck? Like, how did she just drop back into my life? Long story less long, I ended up booking an appointment with her, and she took me on this like magical mystery tour of manifestation. I went to her because I was like, I'm struggling with my health. And she's like, cool, let's manifest. And I'm like, all right. I was I was already dabbling in that on the side for my own business growth. So I had evidence that this stuff could actually work. Changing the filters of my mind, changing the way I think about things, changing my energy so I can attract different things. I know that can work. I've seen evidence of it. What if I applied this to my health? And so I did. And over the next few years, not only did I heal my body, but I started to apply this into the work that I was doing with my clients. And I really started to see some big, significant shifts. And so we were really working not just on the physical body healing, but also on the emotional body, the energetic body, the mental body. And I was researching all of this, like the actual whys behind it. I was gathering up data, and I had like, I don't know, books and books and books and pages and pages and pages and in stacks of data. And I'm like, I have to do something with this. I have to create a program where I can bring this out into the world. Like I cracked the code for myself. I put
Mm.
my autoimmunity in remission. I removed the fear of getting sick. And I just kept telling myself that it was too much. It was too much of a big undertaking. How could I possibly do this? And I was terrified to put myself out there as somebody talking about manifestation, because I built my career on like the science and like proving the whys behind things. Like that's really what like built me up. And so I was like, it was like the dirty little secret that I had in my closet. I'm like, but what I'm really doing is like manifesting stuff, you know? And so I was so scared to do it. What I ended up doing is I signed up for a year-long program through Stanford University. Have you ever heard of Stanford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like, okay, so if I can do this under the guidance of Stanford, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be good. I'm money. You know, no one's gonna bat an eye. And that's exactly what I did. I built the program. I called it Manifest Your Health because I'm like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go all in, and I'm gonna just put myself out there, and I'm gonna use the word manifestation. But I'm also gonna like, you know, hide behind Stanford a little bit
Yeah.
when I do it. And so I created this program, and it took off like a rocket. And it was like, it's just like one of the best things that I've ever created.
Mm.
And it was really like the way that I introduced myself to the world as like, yes, I can talk about science, but I'm also talking about all of these other things. Yes, we can talk about physical body healing, but it is incomplete if we're not also talking about mindset, about the energy body, about energy anatomy, about spirituality, bringing in spirituality into our lives, all of it. We have to unpack all of it. So with that, like I unlocked it. I like unlocked it for me. So now people are like, I want to learn more about manifestation. Like talk to me more about that. And so that is kind of how the name Manifest Your Wealth came out. And I have been doing all of this behind the scenes anyway. And so I'm like, why don't I just like birth that out into the world too? But exactly like you had said, it was my practitioner training is 14 months and it's $20,000. Okay. So it's like, it's an investment. It's a time investment. It's a money investment. And in month 6, what I was doing, again, because I was like kind of hiding this, I was teaching people how to manifest $20,000. I'm like, I want you to pay this off before you graduate. Like if that's a goal of yours, I'm going to help you do it. And I had this idea, what if I bring this to the front? What if I don't hide it behind this program? Because like, I'm not afraid of talking about manifestation anymore. Like I can do it. I can do it. And so I just brought it out to the forefront and I'm like, here's this program. You can manifest the money before you join. And so I opened it up to what I thought was like a tiny little sliver of a tiny little sliver of my audience, practitioners. And then over 200 people joined. And it was something people were obviously ready for.
Wow. There's so much here. Like, one, how elevated, like to support your audience with like, hey, I have this course that's going to really help you in X, Y, and Z. And I've snuck this in here, but I'm going to take it out and I'm just going to put it out to the world. And it's like, it was super well received, but also, hey, let me help you manifest the money to take my course. Like that just, I don't know, for me, that's like such an elevated level of consciousness to offer your community, to help them. And right, like it's not just about the money, it's about who they become through that process.
That's the whole thing. And I really believe in my work. I really believe in my work. I know that if you do one of my programs, it will change your life. I can't predict
Mm,
exactly how. That's not my work, that's yours. But I know I stand by everything I put out there. I know it will change. I have such an unshakable belief in the work that I produce because, side note, I'm also co-creating this with something bigger than myself too. We can talk about that, I'm sure. And so that's the thing, like with FNA, the Functional Nutrition Academy, I'm like, I know this is going to change everything for you. This is going to
mm-hmm,
change everything for you. I want this for you so bad. How can I help you manifest this? A lot of people say, this is the vision board. This is the thing that I want to do. And I'm like, let me help you manifest that. But not only that, it's not, there's no manifesting the money, but it's helping you see your value. You are
mm-hmm,
a worthy investment. As women, we are not taught that. In fact, we are taught just the opposite, that we're a risky investment. And men are conditioned in a very different way, especially when you look at business. It's like men are told to take risks. The way that we're taught, like we're marketed to about money and investing, it's like women, you go clip the coupons,
mm-hmm,
save the money, and then you go take big, bold action. And it's no wonder why most of the CEOs and most of the millionaires and the billionaires are men in business. It's because of this. And so money doesn't have to be the be all end all. Like that's it. Some people
sure.
are motivated by money and some people are not, and whatever. That's not my mission. But my mission is for you to see yourself as a viable investment. And that can be
Mm,
investment of time, of energy, of money, whatever it is. And this might be investing into your health. I work with a lot of moms who do not see themselves as a viable investment. I am going to put my energy into everybody else in my life and not me. So this can look so many different ways, but that's really what Manifest Your Wealth is all about. It's like, I want you to see yourself as
mm-hmm.
something that is worth investing time, money, energy, resources into, because you are.
Mm. Mic drop. I love that. I want to pause for a second because you said you got oh my goodness, speak, an autoimmunity, diagnosed with autoimmunity, and I'm curious what was your path before that? Were you already in this kind of nutrition field of health, or did you have something else going on?
Great question. I was in the field of nutrition. So I went back to school, for dietetics. And, while I was studying dietetics, it was like a really low point in my life in terms of
Mm,
my sense of myself. I didn't feel very valuable. I didn't feel very worthy. I had a lot of issues, a lot of anxiety, depression. I was dealing with a very extreme eating disorder. And it was a hard time in my life. And I was also back in school, and we already talked about like the perfectionist tendencies,
Yeah.
off mic. There is a belief in me that says I am not valuable unless I am the best. And so how that translates to school is I have to get the best grades. I have to break grading curves. Like if I'm not breaking a grading curve, I'm not doing enough. So I put so much pressure on myself to perform in such a very specific way. So I was like kind of a strung out mess, and I was working 3 different jobs. And one of the jobs I was nannying for this woman, and her business was this meditation school. When she hired me, she was like, "Oh, I'm a clairvoyant." I was like, "What does that mean? You like, talk to dead people?" What does it mean? I don't know.
That's so good.
I was like not into that world at this time, like 15 years ago or more. And she ended up inviting me into her meditation school. So once a week for 6 months, I would go and I would just be in a room full of people and I would meditate. And then I did that again for 6 months. And then after that, I was invited into a mentorship with her for a year, where once a week we would get together and she would teach me how to read energy, because that's what clairvoyance is. So I had this really foundational spiritual practice, this being able to see and assess energy, like the things beyond like what our eyes can see, like really working with that world. And so I graduated with a degree in dietetics. This was like still like I wasn't promoting any of this. Like I was just doing the energy work, on the side for myself. And then I knew that I didn't want to become an RD because it just did not feel right. It didn't feel right to me. And I always lead with like what feels right to me. And it's not a dig against RDs. I work with and mentor and have an RD on my team. Like we do a lot of work with a lot of RDs. Love you guys, but it just wasn't right for me. So I went to IIN. I became a health coach after that. And then I was also going through a yoga teacher training, which really helped me create a devotional practice to my body. And I do believe that our bodies are one of the ways that we can connect deeper to spirit. So I had all this stuff going on, and I started a nutrition practice on the side. And that's kind of where I was when I got sick. So it didn't really make a ton of sense, because I'm like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm meditating, I am eating well, I'm hydrating, I'm doing the yoga. That was because I had to dive into a lot of the deeper layers of healing.
I'm going to pause for a second because you said something earlier off mic, and I'm curious, this woman that you're nannying for, how did you find that job?
Craigslist. Baby.
Wow.
Yeah, this is like back in the day. This is back in the day where people hired nannies on Craigslist.
So good. Oh, wow. And what are the odds that, because she sounds like an angel that was just like planted beautifully in your path.
She is my catalytic. I think we have people that are put in our past that provide very catalytic energy, and she has continuously been that way. She's still a mentor of mine. She also does HR for my company. Like she's still very actively a participant in my life, and
Yeah.
I love her. But yes, exactly. And she was the one that told me about IIN. She was the one that like set me on my path. She's like, you're not on the right. This isn't for you. Like she was able to see what my higher self wasn't yet communicating to me. Like she saw my soul, she saw my soul mission, she saw my path, and she's like, over here, hun, like we're going to move it this way. So I'm forever grateful for those catalysts in my life, her being one of them.
I also like, you nannied for her, and like cut to years later, like you're still mentored by her, you're still very close with her, and she works with you in your company.
Yeah,
Like
like
that
isn't
is
life the best? Like
that is
it's
like an
the
epic
best.
story. Yeah. No one.
I have like so many stories like that in my life because I'm open to them. Like I'm open to the synchronicities. I'm looking up at the skies being like, show me. If I'm
Yeah.
confused, I gotta reach into something bigger than myself. Like show me. Show me the next steps. I'm
Show
open
me.
to receive. I don't have it
I feel
figured
like
out.
that's me. I'm like, show me the path and I'll walk it. And I'm like,
Right.
not feeling like I'm being shown.
I know they like send a bird and I was
Yeah.
like, that's not what I needed.
I need something clearer, something more direct.
That wasn't it.
So good. So, okay. Coming back to, so you kind of just started on this journey. You started with meditation, then this autoimmune diagnosis really kind of like pushed you forward into like where you were going, how you were going to do it. Um, we've talked a little bit about like, those catalytic people that really steer you or shift you or say something that really changes your thought process. I'm curious along your path, minus this woman now, she sounds incredible. Um, were there any other moments like that, because I know, let me backtrack for people. In the beginning, you were talking about how we don't like listen to the whispers and like they essentially come shouts in my own terminology here, but yeah, along your path, like where were those whispers? How did you listen to them? How did you know when to listen to them?
Um, when you have a 1-year-old and you get slapped with a diagnosis of an illness and you're told like this could kill you, that's a bit of a wake-up call. I think that illness does have the ability to allow us to enter into a deeper spiral to receive deeper medicine if we choose to see it that way. And I chose to see it that way. So I'm like, this is happening for a reason. What
Mm,
is that reason? And that set me off on the next trajectory of my career. Like, I'm so grateful for that experience. It was hard. I don't want to have to go through it again, to be clear. Like, I've got the
yeah.
medicine now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. But I think that was another very catalytic experience for me. And it also really forced me to make myself a priority in my own life, which as a mother to a 1-year-old is a radical thing to say. Or I
Mhm.
shouldn't say that. People say that. Not many people are willing to embody that and model that. And I had to. I'm like, my story doesn't end here. Like, this is not it for me.
Mm,
So I recognize the path that has led me here, and I cannot keep walking that same path if I want to change. So what needs to change? And it truly was making myself a priority, making my health a priority, making my mental health a priority, carving out the time and the space to do that, even with a baby. Um, I I think that it's fair to say another catalytic person in my life is my husband. Um,
mm.
I'm getting emotional. Oh my gosh. If he heard me talking, he would be like
Mm.
rolling his eyes. I'm not like a sappy person. We are not
Yeah.
like that kind of couple. He has been so supportive of everything. And the more I talk to other women, my clients, just, other people, I know that is a gift that not everybody has. And part of it is like, I have a high, like, I like myself and I expect to be treated well. So I coupled up with somebody who was treated me well. So, like, give myself a pat on the back for that.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't just trip and fall into this
Yeah.
relationship. Like, somersaulted in, found myself here one day. But he has, when I wanted to be home with my daughter, he was like, okay, we'll figure it out. When I said, I'm done being a stay-at-home mom, I want to go back to work, he's like, okay, we'll figure it out. He's just always been very, very supportive. And I see what a gift that is now, because a lot of us end up surrounding ourselves with um, candle blower outers, or
Mm,
that's a Brene Brown term. I can get into that a little bit more. Or people that just don't have the capacity to hold our big vision or hold our big dream. And it's not because they don't want us to succeed. More often than not, it's the people that want us to stay safe. And so safety is usually staying the same. And oftentimes that look like staying exactly where you are and playing small. And he never just let me do that. He was always like, whatever you want to do, I'm here for you. And like,
mm.
let's do it. And I remember there was a pivotal moment, and I want to share this here for any entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs. There was a moment, I remember my daughter was probably around 2 years old. She never slept. So I was like rocking her, trying to get her to sleep. And I opened up social media and I saw that somebody in my local community was doing something very similar to me. And it was through an MLM. And so I had gone to school. I had worked so hard for all the credentialing and all the education, all the experience. Like, I came by it honestly. And she just decided to open up an MLM, and she was promoting a 21-day program. At the same time, I was promoting my own 21-day program that I created with my blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm like, this isn't fair. And I called him at work sobbing, which I never do. And he just said, he was like, you have to, he's like, you are never going to have the marketing juggernaut behind you that a huge corporation does, but you have to keep going. You have to save the pace. Like, you are playing the long game. This person will not be around doing the same thing in 5 years. You will be. And it's like, that was a defining moment in my career because I was ready to throw in the towel. I'm like, I feel like a failure. I can't keep doing this anymore. I can't handle the competition. It's too much. And he did not let me quit. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And so you have to find people in your life that can be the hype girl or the hype guy for you, that can hold you the vision when your eyesight gets flaky and shaky, because it will. That's part of the hustle, you know? And so I am really, really grateful for that. And I think you just have to circle up with the people who are willing to do that for you.
Mm. So beautiful. So beautifully said. I love the analogy. I don't know who told me this, but it's like when you're on a boat and you get seasick, they don't tell you, like, where do they tell you to look? They tell you to look at the horizon. Because if you look down at the boat or you look at the waves, you're going to get more sick. So, what I hear you saying is like, find those people that will direct you back to the horizon, that will hold the horizon for you and not get lost in the waves with you and be like, yeah, you know what? She's got that big company. You should probably, you know what? You're just little. You should just get a job, go back to work, and it'll be fine. And that's mm, that's
Yeah,
so
and I
good.
wasn't making a lot of money. There wasn't a whole lot of evidence of my success to be had, and he was able to be like, "No, this is something. Keep going, keep going." And he knew it was on my heart, and things aren't put on your heart by accident. You know, if your desire is on your heart, it's there for a reason. That is like your soul mission. That is your soul purpose. Like, you got to do it. You got to just go for it. I love the Jay-Z quote, "I'm not looking at you dudes, I'm looking past you." Whenever I say that, it's like, I feel like it's like a cocky thing, like I'm better than you. It's not. It's like, I can't be looking around at what everybody else is doing. I just have to, like, eyes on the prize, like, where am I headed? Because what everybody
Mm,
else is doing is irrelevant to where I'm headed. I'm not trying to do what everybody else is doing. I have to follow my soul mission. I have to follow my soul path. I have to let my soul guidance lead. And it might look very different than what other people are doing. And it should look very different than what other people are doing, I think.
mm. What So with that being said, what are your practices? Like, what helps you keep those, I don't want to say blinders on, because I wouldn't say they're blinders. I feel like they're just focused into where you're headed while being open to what life is showing you. Like, what helps you kind of stay in that frame of reference?
Um, Specific to, like, not looking to what other people are doing, I fundamentally reject, like, the zero sum game. Like, if I have more, that means you have less. If my abundance is predicated on you having less, like, I don't get down like that.
Mm-hmm.
As women, we are taught to do that. We are taught this lie that there is a finite amount of success, beauty, wealth, whatever. And so when we look at somebody else with something that we want, we tell ourselves a story: because she has it, that means there's less available for me. And they become a threat. And I refuse to do that. When I see somebody doing something that I think is wonderful and bold and courageous and something that I want to do, I'm like, great, that's an example that it can be done. That's an example that
Mm,
I can do it too. And I can have that too. And so that's a big one for me. And I'm not, I am, like, not a sage. I'm like, I swear all the time. I get triggered all the time. I, like, have a wicked temper. I just, like, I'm not trying to preach that I have it all figured out. So this is a practice all the time. I'm
right.
always working on this stuff. The other big thing is that I create space. Everything that I do in my business, I have created. I have got the inspiration, and then I've built it out. And there's a lot. I've created a lot. I am a high capacity person. I'm a high impact person. I can do a lot, but it is
Yeah.
because I create space to receive the guidance, to receive the inspiration, and then act on it. And I think when we get busy, or when we are trying to build something, we can tell ourselves the story that I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. We just kind of keep going and keep going and keep going. But one of my practices is to make sure that I have space in every single day. So for me, I live in the woods. And so that's like my happy place. I go into the forest, there's trails everywhere. So I really try to spend a lot of time in nature, in the woods. It's very grounding for me. I receive a lot of like insight and wisdom. That's where like the co-creation comes into play, my divine downloads. And so that is a huge practice of mine. I also really love breath work, because I think that breath work also creates that space for me. And I think those are like two of my bigger practices, I would say.
Are we talking like gentle breath work or like an intense kind of breath work?
There's like nothing gentle about me. So everything I do is intense.
Got
Everything.
it.
So it's like it's like the
Yeah.
like the intense. I'm like taking myself on a magical mystery tour,
Yeah.
like zooming around on the astral fields. I do love just, diaphragmatic breathing too, but that's not what I'm referring to. The other thing that I really love to do is energy work on my business. So like a lot of
Mm.
what I do in my business, I like do with my eyes closed. I like close my eyes and I'm like tuning into the energy of my business or the different offerings, what it needs from me. I'm clearing out energy from my business, from the different offerings, from Instagram, from my podcast. I'm giving them, whoops, I just keep hitting my mic because I talk with my hands so much. I just keep like, I run energy. I'm doing a lot of kind of energy work on my business when I'm launching, when I'm creating. And that is something that is a wonderful practice, because it makes me feel better, and it makes I I I allow my own energy to infuse into my business, which I think is a big important thing. I joke that I am full of myself. But it's not really a joke, because I am full of myself, because like
Yeah.
that's my number one job, is to be full of me, my energy, my essence, to make sure other people's projections and thoughts and expectations aren't clouded up my field. And so I do that for myself. And then I also do that for my business, because I want my business to be full of me too. I want people to feel that. So that's another practice that I have.
Is that something you were trained in, or is that more just like a conscious choice of like, okay, clearing the energy, tuning? Yeah, tell me about that.
It's so I have done a lot of different trainings and certifications, but I'm not like a framework follower.
Yeah.
I'm like mix master Erin. I'm like taking all the different things I've learned and like cobbling them together, And so I've taken like 15 years of trainings and like mashed them into my own little thing. But one thing that I am actually very, very excited about doing is that I have created a framework that I'm going to teach to other entrepreneurs. I
Mm.
put it together in a program called Impact, and I've never done this before. It's exactly that. It's like how how I hold the business, the energy of my business on like an energy level. Obviously, like I have a successful business. I'm just going to throw it out there as a mock-up. I've created a multi seven-figure business. It's a pretty big deal. Not a lot of female founders get to do that. I would like to change that. So when I'm talking about all of this stuff, of course, I do the practical boots on the ground work. Of course, I do the structural things and the strategy things. I'm not only the CEO of my company, I'm the CMO of my company. So I am the man with the master plan behind all of the marketing that you see. So I know strategy very well. And I can tell you that none of that, the practical thing, the strategy thing, none of that would have worked as well without the energetic piece alongside of it.
Mm.
Because there are things that in my business that just don't make practical sense. They're like, how did she do that? And a lot of people now, because I have outward success, people can see that. A lot of people are like, hey, can I pick your brain? I want to know how you built what you built. And I think that they're looking for this, like 5-step process. Like all you got to do is do, 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 do. And I'm like, that isn't how I did it though. Like I just made my primary relationship, my relationship to myself. I really cultivated my energy. I am constantly looking for like, where is my energy going and being siphoned from that it shouldn't be. And I pull it back to myself. I do the things in my work that make me feel alive. I think we're really good at asking ourselves, okay, how do I create value for other people in my work? But I'm also saying, how do I create value for myself? Because I don't want to create stuff just for the sake of creating it if I feel like I'm crying when I'm doing it, like I
Yeah.
need to feel filled up with my creation, my own creation process. That's a priority for me. So I think all of these things are really how I have built this. And I'm just really thrilled to be able to teach people a new way, for entrepreneurs.
I love that. I think that there's so much beauty in that because this day and age, everyone's like, what's the automation system? What's the
Yeah.
4-step process I can do? Oh, I'm struggling getting clients. But I'm going to do this systematic approach. And there's so many teachers out there teaching strategy. And along my journey, what I've really realized is it has not nothing to do with strategy, but like strategy is like 5% of like the 95% that's really like, what are your beliefs? How are you showing up every day? Are you in alignment? Are you filled up? And to hear you say that really makes me happy because I feel similarly a call to like lift up women and support them in making more money and like loving money and stepping into that kind of sphere of like it's okay to be powerful.
It is okay to be powerful. We just have like a fucked up relationship with power, and
We
like
do.
we have to like look at that and we have to talk about that and we have to unpack that. And money and power often go hand in hand,
Mhm.
And so if we have a fudged up relationship with power, chances are that's going to bleed into our relationship with receiving and earning and wealth, in money as well. And then back to the strategy thing, because sometimes when I'm talking to like more of like the spiritual, like people with like a deep foundation of spirituality, they can
Mhm.
lean a little bit too heavily on that, and where we
Sure.
actually have to like cross them over into like, okay, it's great to do your business in your head, but it can't stay there, right? We
Yeah.
have to like bring it out into the real world, boots on the ground, and talk about, okay, what are the practical things that we're actually going to do, just so our medicine doesn't get stuck inside of us. We need a way to birth it out. And so I do feel like there's a beautiful blend of both, of like the divine masculine traits, the divine
Sure.
feminine traits too. And I think we have to adopt that in business for a sustainable business.
Definitely. I'm curious, just going back really quick to your practices. So you create space. So you go out in the woods every day. And what do you do there? Are you quiet? Are you
A little bit of
moving?
this, a little bit of
Yeah.
that. Um, it depends. It really depends. Sometimes I have like a podcast that I'm listening to and I'm like taking notes in my phone app, It's not like a completely unplugged. I'm like communing with
Yeah.
God in the woods, but sometimes it is. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm sitting, I'm like, oh, there's a pile of moss. I have to sit in it. There's a beautiful rock. I have to sit in it. I'm just going to sit and be silent. But it's more about being with myself in an uncluttered way,
Mm,
not being in front of my inbox, not being connected, not being pulled from in every direction. It's just being in my own energy. And that looks so different day to day, but I'm just creating this space and creating that as a devotional practice to myself. And I think the more we do that, the more we can train that, the more we like map out this space for things to drop in. So it's a little bit of like an esoteric answer. But there's no like, this is the 3 things that I do when
yeah.
I'm out in the woods. It's like
Yeah.
I'm headed there and I'm just hoping for the best.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, this is this was beautiful on so many levels. I could probably talk to you for another 4 hours.
Definitely.
Um, but being mindful of time, I suppose before like we wrap up and let people know where they can find you because you're incredible and amazing. Is there anything else that you just feel called in this moment to share? Um, anything that really there's been so much in this episode that will shift someone's paradigm, pun intended. but just anything that you think you'd like to leave with the audience as like a nice little bow.
Um, well, you brought up power. And so this has kind of been something I've been thinking a lot about is um I recognize, I'll say this about myself, but this is true for many of us. I have the ability to activate people into their power. It's one of my superpowers. Like when you're in a room with me, you're going to walk out like change. You're going to be like, "Shit, I could do that thing. I'm going to go do that thing." Like that is truly, people call me like, like a cheerleader. Like I love a good pep talk. I love a good pep rally. And I believe it too, that's something that I teach to my practitioners. I'm like, if you do not believe that your client has the ability to heal, then you better not take them on as a client. Because like you have to hold space for their highest timeline. And I feel that way about any dialogue, any relationship that I enter in. I'm not going to gas somebody up if I don't really believe that they can do it. So I have the ability to activate people into their power. I also have the ability to activate people into their wounding. Kind of comes
Mm,
with the territory. That was really hard for me for a really long time. And I felt that I had to explain myself and kind of like a little codependency, like be responsible to caretake their experience of me.
mm-hmm.
I'm not somebody who's ever really edited myself. I'm not going to shape shift myself to be some version of you that you find more palatable. I'm like, this is what you get. This is who I am. But I did feel that I had to kind of like moderate their experience of me. Um, and that had everything to do with me and not with them. And so it has been a real journey in just being okay with knowing that I activate people into their wounds. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because we have to stretch our capacity to experience the discomfort of that so that we can stretch our capacity to really uplift the right people that are here for our work. If we want more people to receive our medicine, we have to be okay with like the dichotomous opposite of that too. And it is so much harder said, or so much easier said than done. But that
Mm-hmm.
has really been my work, is to just stretch the capacity. It's like, I know I already brought up Brene Brown, but she says when you numb the dark, you also numb the light. It's kind of like that. Like I have to be okay with people misinterpreting me, misunderstanding me, taking my words and use them to like self-weaponize. I have to be okay with that so that I can keep speaking, so that I can keep
Mm.
sharing, so that my work can help the people that it's designed to help. Um, and that's a big one, that is like, with great power comes great responsibility, And so, but that's
Yeah.
true for everybody listening to this. And it's not like, oh, don't care what people say. Like, oh, the hater's gonna hate. It's like, cool. That's all like trite, but it's like, but we actually have a real visceral internal experience when somebody misunderstands us, or when somebody doesn't like us, or doesn't like our work, or doesn't like the things that we're saying. And we can move very easily into self-censorship. And we can't do that, because when we censor ourselves, we censor our medicine. And there are people in the world that need our medicine the exact way we came here to deliver it.
So good. Such a beautiful way to end. And I just want to thank you because I think that's something I really needed to hear, especially as someone who has a podcast. Like you can only imagine. I'm like, oh my God, what did I
So
just
much
say?
editing.
It's
I know.
like,
I know.
so I really resonate with that. And I appreciate you saying it because it is true. Like we just need to let go and let us be ourselves and be our authentic selves and trust that who we resonate with are going to go this way and who we don't are going to go that way. And it's totally okay because it's worth activating the group that you're here to activate with your gifts.
Yeah, it really is.
Um, so if anyone's listening and they're like, wow, I love her because they probably are, where can they find you?
Okay, so I have like 20 different websites right now. I'm in the
Okay.
middle of a little bit of a rebirth. So the best places are my podcast and Instagram right now. So my podcast is the Functional Nutrition Podcast. It's spelled with a K. My Instagram is the.functional.nutritionist, also spelled with a K. And from Instagram, I just updated it today, actually. So it links out to like all the different. So if you're coming to me because you want to better your health, great. I've got resources for you. If you're a practitioner, great. I've got resources for you. If you're an entrepreneur, amazing. I've got resources for you. So go to Instagram and it's all linked out from there.
Well, I'm like thankful you didn't go the route of RD. Like you just
Yeah, I
not
mean,
again,
who's
nothing
to
against
say?
it, but like look at what you've created. Like there was just such a bigger divine path for you.
Yes, yes, there was. And I was lucky enough to be willing to listen to the signs and listen to my gut and trust myself.
Mm, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
being a
you so
guest and
much.
sharing. And yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.